Thanks, everyone. Well, everyone's been talking about Gen AI the entire conference, but we're going to be here and really kind of consolidate things to really see, what's real, what's not, what's its potential, and we've got an incredible panel here who can speak very authoritatively on the subject. They aren't just messing around with ChatGPT, throwing in a few prompts here and there. And for those who saw Norm's panel, they were kind of high level, more on the machine learning and natural language. We're going to focus really more on the Gen AI side. So really to start off, I guess, what do you guys see as the greatest opportunities for Gen AI in travel?
I think the one that we are seeing at the moment is the ability to create human-like conversations. So you can converse like you believe that you have a human in front of you. And it has direct implication on the inspiration phase, assisted booking, and partially for servicing when it relates to how to question. You can actually educate someone with information very easily.
Except they're smart, they have all the information, and hopefully provide the right answers.
Now, I'd like to add, it's been like about a year?
Yeah.
Since we heard about ChatGPT. Amazing year it has been. I think the opportunities are immense, the potential is phenomenal, and we're just scratching the surface, right? So I think Gilles mentioned we can do a lot with respect to, in my mind, I feel like the natural language aspect of generative AI, the ability that it provides you to sort of just speak into the interface and ask for what you need and not really have to type like a one-word, two-word query that you typically have been doing on search engines or even on other sites. So that's pretty transformative in and of itself. Customer service, Gilles talked about. I think the complex tasks, the simplification of complex tasks and breaking it down for you and basically being your co-pilot and having you as the human being in control, I think is another very important aspect of it. Since I work at Microsoft, and of course, many of you are tech enabling your companies, the developer productivity aspect of it is also phenomenal. So the GitHub Copilot and the ability to kind of help the developers get more productive and efficient is something that I'm pretty amazed by. The aspect of just doing all kinds of complex tasks, like even if you want to go to a destination and you want to compare two destinations, you want to compare hotels, that's like a lot of work that you may have to do manually. I think you can depend on Gen AI to sort of help you with those tasks and actually get them done very fast.
Good, so lots to summarize.
Yeah, and I think I can go on, but I'll stop here.
Yeah,
try to add to it.
All good areas, and I completely agree with them. The immediate applications, though, things that we're already doing, which I think is a nice place to start because you can really understand the power of how fast you can use the technology to move this forward. Gen AI really does democratize this for everybody. Any website, any product, any service, whether you have 2 employees or thousands of employees. And that's what I love about this because our business, we are part of Booking Holdings, and Booking.com is a very big worldwide brand who has hundreds of AI specialists, right? PhDs going to work. I work at Priceline. We don't have that. But this instantly puts the technology in our hands to where we can deploy it very quickly. So things that we've done that you'll find on our site already. We have AI-generated hotel descriptions, right? And for hotel properties that historically have had very poor descriptions, this has instantly increased the conversion rate on those properties. So real impact right off the first test or two out of the door. Right. Second, we've deployed an AI bot that is essentially throughout the booking process, and we're surprised at the types of questions customers come up with. Like, we would never be able to respond to these questions with content on the screen. So as they engage and ask, the bot's doing a very good job of accessing all of our content and then the world's corpus of data and answering it pretty precisely. One of the best, and highest asked questions is all about pet policy, right? And it's not, can I bring a pet? It's, well, what if I have 2 dogs? Right. What if I have a parakeet, right? And those are the types of questions we would never answer, but Gen AI does a pretty good job.
The edge cases of all those everything's an edge case.
So content generation is very, very particular in our space, and this is proving to be pretty quick. Summarizing reviews, making it much easier for care agents to obviously address complex fare rules and things. It's just very fast in deploying that.
Yeah, and the voice interface, I mean, the translation, right? The translation capabilities and cleaning up a lot of that is just huge. So what do we think is kind of the fastest, highest impact first things that are going to get? Is it in customer care? Is it in content generation?
For us, I'd say it's content generation. It's just so easy to put out and to produce. You know, when you think about a chatbot, it's very good at answering questions, but the next step is now integrating that chatbot into all of your functions. So all the things that you can have an API go do for you, like cancel a booking. So we're now starting to integrate those things into the chatbot, and now it starts to get much more sophisticated and I think helpful for a consumer.
Yeah, and you get all the data where it can learn from it and start improving and
yeah,
figuring out the things that don't work.
I would say that chatbot most definitely, and I believe that we are mostly at the rudimentary stage of building a chatbot using Gen AI. Lots of positives that Brett talked about, but I think it's just scratching the surface. I talked about developer productivity. That's another, I think, fast benefit that I think everybody can unlock for themselves. The other thing is basically removing the barriers to language communication. So travel is universal. You are going to be talking to companies that may not be in your language when you're at a destination. The ability to kind of communicate, get your tasks done fast. Gen AI can actually help, from speech recognition, basically converting it into the native language, getting the task implemented, getting the response, and then text-to-speech, getting it read back out to you. These are all very low-hanging fruits that I think Gen AI can actually help with. The other thing I want to mention is even mundane tasks or even a flight booking, for example, or a hotel booking is stressful. If you're going with a family of 4 or 5 over a long weekend or something, you basically have to deal with multiple filters, like 15 filters or whatever, right?
Right.
With Gen AI, you can just basically say, hey, I'm a family of 4, 2 kids under 10, flying to, say, Hawaii on a particular month, this class of service. And so you're basically getting the user deeper into the funnel, removing the friction, and getting them to book as fast as possible. So basically, it's about removing friction. So I think that's going to be something that we can unlock very quickly.
I think Gen AI will bring something quite fast on the inspiration phase. When you don't know where you want to go, and at Amadeus, we have a prototype where we do conversational search, and I used it for myself. So I wanted to know, I want to go in Easter, in a sunny place, and the only thing that I knew, I want to do snorkeling with the kids. And in a matter of 5 minutes, I found my destination with actually flight prices. Is it convenient for me? Is it the right place to go? So I believe it can actually bring a huge of impact quite soon.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about that is, we're going to see a number of startups in the travel space that will try to take that to another level. But it feels like that's where everybody's trying to start, right, is in the inspiration side. And the reality is Gen AI will be able to do this pretty effectively on its own. It won't need startup investment to make it even better because the tools will be so good out of the box. And so what we have to understand is how do we actually make it significantly better than what it will already be? And that's obviously using whatever homegrown data you have that's unique to the traveler, or that will push them into a transaction flow or into something else that provides value to you. But I've seen so many companies trying to start at that high level,
right,
yet the tool is already doing that on its own. So that's what's
the beauty for us. Travel is a complex product. It's all about the experience, and it's combined very different elements. You need so much data to be able to connect the dots that having travel-specific knowledge at data point will actually make it way better than a public model, which is too large. I think there is an opportunity for something very specific when you connect the dots and you can create the perfect trip, which will be ultra-personalized to what the person needs in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, obviously it doesn't have access to availability and pricing. I mean, it could in the future, but it doesn't today, and that's obviously something that's very private and unique too.
And I think between us, that's what we can bring actually to the industry. So in the prototype, I had access to live prices, and it helped my choice because I had a budget that I wanted to respect. I had the knowledge about my intent. So having this information at the same time, boom, you have something amazing.
Well, and we had an earlier panel on decentralized identity, which was great. And one of my theses is I'm eligible for a bunch of stuff, right? Because either my phone plan or where I shop or whoever on whatever. When I purchase something, I don't want to have to pay more than I need to, right? I might want to pay a lot, but I don't want to pay. I pay $700 a night for a hotel. That's great, But if I could get it for $650 and I missed that out, I feel bad, right? So all of that, I think Gen AI could, if it has accurate information on the person's eligibility and signals, all of a sudden, here's the best deal for you.
I think that's a great point, yeah, Robert, because it's about the buyer's remorse. So you can actually help the users get information quickly. Otherwise, you're going to have to open multiple tabs, go to multiple websites, do your own research, to your point, right? Otherwise, you're going to have to do that manually and tediously. With this, you can actually bring all of that goodness to the users and maybe even tell them about all the discounts and coupons and cashback that's available to them, and be able to apply that and take benefit of that and save money as well.
Or even just give it to them, because if you understand their behavior, you go, it's the same.
That's right.
A product tip, the way I search on almost every single site, I'm generally looking for 4- and 5-star hotels. I want them filtered with like an 8+ guest rating, and sort them to ascending price order, because I don't know if this great hotel has just an insane sale or something like that. Yeah, except to kind of save that profile to always, and I know they're advertising models and things like that. We would really like to recommend some of these more higher margin things.
And we're seeing those kinds of questions already, right? As we have the bot, again, stationed throughout the flow, and literally on the page where you're about to click book, people are asking, how good of a price is this?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they're asking at that stage of the transaction. And so we can respond with a lot of great data, right? We can give them historical price behavior on that property itself, and we can tell them, hey, you actually have an active coupon right now, here it is, you can apply it if you'd like, and they can apply it right from within the bot, which, before, they'd have to leave the transaction flow, go check an email somewhere, or go sign into another account to check that process. It just makes it so much easier for customers.
Well, I think it was, over a dozen years ago, I think, for Phocuswright, we did a little project on the 7-step travel process. And everybody was kind of at 4, but it was like, inspiration versus research is a little bit different, and research versus planning is a little bit different. And then there was a step called validation, kind of right after that, because it's like, I've done all of this stuff, here's the plan, all this fits, but, and that's kind of where a travel agent, reliable travel agent, destination expert or whatever, where people can, that's fantastic. Gen AI may be able to step in and just
need a friendly bot to make them feel better.
Yeah, Robert, you figured this out.
That's what we're offering.
Exactly.
Right. And by the way you write the prompt for the way that the bot speaks is very important. Our prompt writers are really finding a lot of interesting ways to communicate, clearly, but in the right tone that's associated with our brand, the way that we would typically speak outside of, the website itself. And it's so powerful. It's pretty exciting.
So what kind of obstacles is this challenge where traditionally, say for hotels who have notoriously horrible data, and they have poor descriptions and content, and traditionally online travel agents have had to rely on all that because you want the latest updated, but it's not necessarily that. That's certainly got to be one of the barriers, is kind of quality data to train these.
Personally, I think one of the biggest challenges that all industries will face is we're going to burn a lot of cycles working on things that will have zero impact for consumers. And we all think we have the brilliant idea of how this is going to work, and the big bang ideas are the ones that are really going to fall hard. And so really it's, how do you point your people, your resources, the technology in a way that doesn't consume everybody's life and produces literally no incremental value for the company? And so you have to, place some good bets and be fairly precise in your testing cadences to make sure that you get things that actually work. Right. I think, honestly, the technology is so easy to apply and use, it really is just about where you apply it.
Yeah.
I fully agree. The tech is super accessible, but it goes super fast, and you need to test to see what will win at the end.
It's a management of that data as opposed to, it didn't. Yeah, it's almost, I think, people are now getting this tool and going, okay, we're done. We have AI. It's like, no, you've just started. This is the beginning.
I just want to add one more point to this, right? So so LLMs out of the box are pretty powerful in and of itself. And I think most people are using it in a zero-shot, few-shot kind of mode, and that's the right way to use it. So us at Bing, and basically when Bing incorporated and integrated with GPT-4, we basically did something interesting, right? So GPT-4 had some limitations in terms of how far back you could basically get the fresh kind of data over to you from the outputs point of view. I think, so what we did is we used the Bing's search index and the freshness of that to merge the data and give users, so speaking of data, right? So the quality was very important. So we grounded the model's response with the searches fresh data to give users more fresh and relevant information. So now even OpenAI is kind of using some of our Bing grounding techniques to kind of improve. So data quality is super important. Even after going through all of this, there are still some challenges, and I think we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So how can, I mean, really practical applications, where do you see really Gen AI really impacting the traveler experience, say from the inspiration research phase? How can it really kind of get traction and really deliver?
I mean, it's clear it'll have inspiration, traction. The care side of this, though, I don't think can be understated. If you think about anyone who services travel, the average tenure of a travel agent is probably only 6 to 9 months. That's the kind of turnover that customer care agents, have in the industry. So if you're asking a customer care agent, more than likely living outside of the country, outside of the US, to cater to a US customer who has possibly never even taken a flight, they have 6 months of training, and now they're helping you, deal with a complicated flight transaction, dissect complicated fare rules, that's a really tough transaction to happen. And the bot technology not only makes it easier to do just yourself, but its ability to dissect, summarize, and then communicate something to a consumer will be extremely powerful. And I think that will significantly improve the customer's post-book trip experience in the very near future.
Kind of first touch resolution, things like that, where you can get it at first tier support,
Yeah,
not having to escalate.
the first tier support, we should be able to tackle that in the next year, right? If we can't tackle first tier, that's shame on us. It's the second and third tier, the very complicated transactions, that we'll be able to help our agents first, but then eventually the system should be able to do that much more effectively because of its knowledge and awareness of how to
And at
handle
tier
it.
2, you can at least have the knowledge base for the policies and things like that, so it isn't necessarily, oh, I've got to go.
Yeah, you can train this on literally, years worth of calls, because you can transcribe those immediately into text, have it read it, and understand what the best transaction outcome is for the consumer based on literally, just millions of transactions. That should be a much more effective outcome for the consumer.
So short term, I fully agree with you. Short term with inspiration, assisted booking with natural language should be easy. Customer servicing with how-to questions, so first level, we can expect in the short term. And the real opportunity is servicing. If we are able to harness the power of generative AI and control where it goes wrong, because you don't want things to go wrong when you are in the servicing phase, then actually you can think about an intelligent rebooking system. And then it starts to be very interesting for the traveler and also for agent, because we can make the agent a lot more efficient and relevant to the end traveler.
And if you think about a little bit more longer term than that, I would say the personalization aspect cannot be understated, right? I think we're again just barely scratching the surface of what we can do on personalization. There's a lot in terms, this whole model can understand multi-turn, it can understand context, it can read your emails if you allow it to, and it can actually make a lot of sense of what to present to you at what point in time. It can have multi-turn conversations. So the aspect of giving, Gilles is different and Brett is different and Robert, we all have different preferences in terms of travel. So we may ask the same question, Paris travel as an example, but we all have different needs, and the model needs to take all of that into consideration and be able to respond with that. So I think that is long term. I think we will be definitely seeing a whole lot of that value getting unlocked, right? I feel that's a pretty big thing.
And I would just add on the personalization side, this has been a travel industry dream for many, 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 many years, right? To produce the most effective search results and/or content we put in front of you. The minute you engage with a chatbot, you're telling us things that will inspire the next thing that we show you, right? Because you're going to tell us, I am traveling with a dog, or I'm with a family with children, et cetera. And customers will share that with you. And without that experience, you wouldn't get that information. But now you can instantly tailor your sorting mechanisms, the content that I'm displaying to you, even the way that you service the customer based on that data. And that will be challenging, but it's not that hard to take the content, put it into your customer data profile, and then link the two together with your
and you break the traditional paradigm of departure airport or destination airport dates.
I'm not sure we'll ever break that paradigm, but
oh, please break that paradigm.
Good luck.
No, why are you traveling? right? Sort
The
of
why
thing. What
is
do you
the
want?
more important piece.
Yeah.
I want to add one more thing, which is I think we've been talking a lot about Gen AI as if it's some magical tool. It is in some ways, but I think it will complement everything that you have. So you don't have to rip off and throw away everything that you have. You're going to basically build complementary solutions that go along with the core thing that you already have built. In fact, I would want to encourage this entire industry to accelerate movement in terms of how we can, leverage the benefits of Gen AI. The place where I feel like we are lacking significantly right now is the user experience of it. And I'll tell you why I say that. I feel like you're going to have to talk to Gen AI. You got to move away from your traditional sort of search, get into a conversational mode, then do the chat aspect of it with it. And of course, it's great at multi-turn, it's great at context and all of that. And then if you want to come back and consume that rich content, then you come back into search or come back into your website and then continue your search from that, continue your task from that point in time. I don't think there's a seamless integration. I think the user experience and the UX of it, I think, can go through a transformational change as we look ahead.
Yeah, I agree. We're doing some rudimentary things there already. If you ask us a question about a certain type of hotel you're looking for in the chat, we can instantly link you right back into the display with the answer kind of painted in front of you. And that, again, that's rudimentary, but it's miles ahead of where we thought we would be a month ago, right? So the pace is moving pretty quickly.
Well, that's great.
It's important not to oppose the two, like a Gen AI and natural language and what exists today. No? At the end, the two will be complementary. Like you will use generative AI, natural language in some cases, you will still need the current interfaces that are super powerful.
Right.
So it's not an opposition or a replacement, it's actually complementary. It gives more ways to actually convert.
Right. Yeah, and I see some of the challenges. I mean, certainly across hospital, I do a lot of work with hospitality, but they'll be targeting certain markets, like romantic travel or something like that, anniversaries, things like that. That's great. You'll have a couple. They've got an ad strategy. They've got targeting. Everything. It's beautiful. Great execution. They're getting click-throughs, and then all of a sudden you get forced into the booking engine where it's just some generic, and it's they're shot at the top of the page as a family in the pool or something. Like, wait, that's not us, and just these very kind of weird disjointed as you get passed on from platform to platform, which is, and at least my understanding, you look at the social commerce side, they're looking for really accurate information. It's informative and it's reliable, right? To make sure it goes and be entertaining. How do you accomplish the goals that they're looking for? So yeah, I agree. I think that's a big challenge. So we've talked a little bit about how it improves the customer. What about the organization? Certainly we've talked about hitting in terms of development resources and things like that. Customer care, you can totally do that. We're running a little bit low on time. Any areas you have any concerns over intellectual property, privacy, deploying? Tomorrow morning, shameless plug, there's a responsible AI panel on I think like 9 in the morning, something like that.
I mean,
anything like that?
I mean, internally, right, all the conversations we have, the initial reaction was, wow, we're going to expose all of our private data and content. The reality is most of the content's already exposed on the internet anyway. The most important data is, of course, the PII of the customer and ensuring that none of that ever gets injected into this system. Right. And that's not, I don't think, overly complicated to do. You just need to put the right policies in place and ensure that your developers and others don't have access to that content that will mistakenly inject it or allow it to move through. So you've got to filter out what consumers put in as well just to protect that. But
gratuitous plug. Decentralized identity works really well for that. So good. Okay.
And as much time as we'd invested in sort of building the AI and doing the grounding work and actually getting the outputs, I would say the similar amount of time Microsoft has spent on the responsible AI aspect of it. So we are very, very cognizant of the fact that this is super important. It's going to be something that we're going to continue to work on. It's not like completely solved in my mind, but we will continue to work on it. It's top of our minds, and we give a lot of importance to it.
So I saw something just to wrap up very quickly. There's a comment actually from Microsoft conference, which is going on right now. Little thing.
Ignite.
What's from Ignite? Is AI, generative AI, more important? Will it be bigger than the internet? Yes or no? Because there was a quote from someone, I'll tell you who did.
I think both are equally important in my mind. Bigger than the internet, I'm not sure it's going to be complementary in my mind.
All right, yeah, bigger?
I think generative AI is set to revolutionize knowledge work the same way as robotization has revolutionized manufacturing. And we are only touching the surface of it.
Yep, so you're thinking?
I can't give that intelligent of a response. So.
The head of NVIDIA said it's going to be bigger, but I think he has a stake in it, so he's got a dog in that fight. So maybe that's it. Thank you very much for your time, panel.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, and hope everybody's using it responsibly.